Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Expert Talk. And today I'm very happy because I'm traveling to Ohio, United States, and I'm visiting today Katie Hahn. Katie, it's so nice meeting you. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're getting ready for the Halloween season here. So it's beautiful in the fall and just very excited to get a chance to talk to you.
Thank you so much. This is very kind, Kathy. We will just start. I have a very short summary putting your huge expertise in a nutshell. So let me just start and please correct me afterwards if I'm wrong. So let's get started. So Kathy, you have more than, I guess, 15 years of expertise in business operations, consulting, and sales leadership. So very interesting combination. You are a seasoned strategist and coach who help women entrepreneurs and coaches turn chaos into clarity.
Yes.
Moreover, with a background spanning in IT, finance, marketing, and education, you led major tech integrations and you also restructured academic programs and you also drove multi-million-dollar growth, so money. Moreover, you empower business owners, especially female coaches, which is very much appreciated. And you also help to simplify their systems, streamline operations, and build sustainable income through your, now it comes, 5-step clarity method. Kathy, I'm very happy to have you on the show. Let's get going.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. So I'm very interested about what is the 5-step clarity method?
All right. So as you had, nicely put into a nutshell, I've got a lot of years of experience, and my years of experience kind of came from drinking from a fire hose. I did not get into business to get into business. I started, it was just kind of dabbling in sales, got into business, and then I was put into a CEO role, and my business partners left. So I had 15 days to figure it out. I didn't know if I was a check signer. I didn't even know if I had the right door keys. But in that process, I learned the hard way. I had to try, I had to fail. But over the years and taking over other businesses and in different industries, that there was kind of a method that I was going through every single time I stepped into a new business. And it started easily at the beginning. And it's my framework is called CLIMB. And its C is clarity. And I needed to know really the basics, like who are you talking to? Who's your persona, that ideal client? Really, what is your messaging? Also, what is your business model? And how do you plan to grow? Like kind of all the basics. What is that fundamentals? And then L is leveraging. So really putting in things in place to leverage either automations, other people, and your time. You really want to make sure that, if you're a small business, how do you leverage as much as possible without you being the only person to do everything? I is implementing and really putting those things in place, but also starting to put in the place of implementing yourself as a CEO. And this seems very like, well, why would you do that? Most women that I talk to, or even business owners, are like, well, I'm a business owner. I said, it's a mind shift. You need to shift to think like a CEO, one person or 120. Because when you do that, you start to see things as not being a cog in a wheel, that operator, you become an orchestrator. And it allows you for growth, because when you don't step out of that cog, you're just doing it every day. You don't actually get see the big picture and really position yourself to grow where you want to. The next letter is M, and that is measurement. And this is, again, once you have that CEO mindset, it's about measuring, using KPIs and data, and making data-driven decisions versus just doing it and prioritizing. It really allows you to say, what are the numbers telling me? What is that gut feeling I'm having? Is it validated or not at all? Because sometimes that happens. And then making the decisions in a way in which you can move the business to where you want it to go. You want a lifestyle business? Great. But what is the data telling you need to do to make that happen? Or Do you want to scale? Because also, if you don't have the right numbers and metrics to understand that and the right mindset, what got you here won't get you there. So what I mean by that is if you grew to easily, just $30,000 a month, that's different than taking the next step to go to $100 million or $1 million. There's so many different levels in there, but at some point you outgrow things. You might outgrow your systems, your number, your team, or your business model. And those are things that you have to be able to measure and have data to make those decisions with the right mindset. And then the last part of it is just benchmarking. As you're growing and scaling, continue to benchmark. And I really learned from a peer group really about even having CEO meetings with yourself. Even if you're a small business, it's about having those quarterly business reviews and really digging in to make sure you're doing and feeling what you should be doing so that you can say, I'm benchmarking the right things, I'm making the right path, and also saying maybe I'm going down the wrong path, and making sure that you're seeing that in the way in which you want your business to go or grow. Or some people burn it all down and go small back to a lifestyle business because that's where their life is at that time. So my method is based on my experience across all different industries, different types of people, but all of it really comes back to I learned the hard way. And I wish somebody would have told me there was an easy way to take this so that I can move forward and grow businesses in a strategic way.
It's so nice listening to you. It's very interesting and very impressive. The vibes are, they're hitting me. So
Oh, good.
if I was listening correctly and carefully, I guess you said climb, right? So CLIMB, correct? That's what you did.
Yes.
Okay, this is the method. Okay, perfect. I got it. I would like to switch back to the first letter, which is C, because we spoke about clarity. Clarity is very important, especially also for first-time CEOs, right? Female founders, also, any kind of founder who like to build a company, but also for young people who just graduated maybe from, university and would like to start their first role, to land their first job or whatever. So what would be your advice? Because one last note, you just said you also switched industries, often. So do you would recommend doing this to get more clarity or just be in one line and just go straight?
So a very, very wise business person who is also a mentor of mine said, evaluate every opportunity. And while I was talking to her, she said, you may not know where you want to go. And sometimes you have to take a step back to go forward. And sometimes it's about learning. And so if you feel that you've met that capacity of what you were learning in that industry, that job, you need to move on to a role in which you know maybe 75% and challenge yourself to learn more. And so my viewpoint is business is business, and behind the scenes that's the same always. So for me, switching industries meant I might have to learn about the context of what I'm doing, but I understood the business. So that made it easy for me to switch industries. Um, Now, I have been all over the place, and I am probably the wrong person to answer that question because my background is literally all over the place. So I feel very comfortable in very different industries. So my advice to anyone coming out of university is that get a strong background in business if that's what you want to do. Understand business wherever it is, and then find your passion and then go down that. Business may not be your passion, but you may have a passion that you can pair those two things together with. So I never knew I was in like sales at all. I didn't even know I was good at it until I figured out I was good at it. And I kind of thought it was scummy and salesy, but I'm really, really good at sales. I just like to listen, and women are good at that. So it's a little bit different. But what I found was sales was something I was really good at, but I could take all of that information back to business. And so for me, I loved being in sales because I could learn so much about my industry very quickly. I spent a lot of time with my ideal clients to tell me what they needed, why it was important, and really get that clarity. And I know so many people in different industries, coaching industries, consulting, they talk about that niche in that ideal person. And it is very, very true. But you can't stop there. You can't lose that connection to it. Once you start going, you still have to stay. And I'm going to say to any business person, you need to stay in touch with sales, because you lose that connection, your sales team can divert very quickly. But sales is the gold mine. And I just, I think so many people don't realize if you just listen, they will tell you exactly what they want. And that means you can build around that versus saying, I have something I think you need. I can get you exactly what you want and make it a no-brainer sale. And so that idea of moving industries is, for me, was I love sales and I paired it with business. And I think you can do that with anything that you do love, but you do need to learn the foundations and make sure you have that good, strong foundation and then start moving.
Thank you so much, Katie. This was a very nice explanation and a very nice, story back, to your beginnings, where you started from. So thank you so much. We have recently recognized that a lot of young people, they really try to avoid, starting their first job, especially in sales, because they are afraid of being, in contact with people they don't know. But you just said it's a gold mine, and I completely understand. I completely agree with you. So they avoid, calling people on the phone because they always text, So it's everything is switching, I mean, if it's maybe it's because of COVID, maybe it's because of the generation, we have no clue, but there's a completely different understanding of how to start your first position, what could be the first job you could step into, and why people are afraid of such things. Yeah.
It's funny. I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I had a rule until recently. She thought it was true. I said that everybody should start in retail or food service, because you have to learn to talk to people face to face. There's no texting, none of that. And every new interaction is a brand new chance. So even if you failed on the first one, you get a new chance. And I think I that's what I did for a long time while I was in school and everything. But I just love talking to people. And I think that's what changed my mindset about feeling intimidated about talking to people. Because when you have that, you have to talk to them. There's no way around it, and you can naturally start conversations with them. And I think that's one way to get over that hump, is if you've had those types of interactions, you're going to be better in sales because you're used to doing it. You're not putting a phone in between you and somebody else or a computer.
Thank you so much. I completely love what you say. Really, it's wonderful. I feel it. Yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you so much. And I also like it you share that you have a daughter, right? So you exactly know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my next question is maybe to the female founder in you. So what did you discover are some of the toughest things or challenges, you have to master since you are female and you are a founder? So maybe you can share some insights, and maybe you can also give some hints and tips, how to master the challenges.
Oh man, when I started out, I was in a man's world, 100%. I was in tech. I had no female employees. I had no female counterparts. And when I was dealing business to business. So I was in sales, but running the company. And every business owner I was talking to, for probably 90% of them, were all men in professional services. So lawyers, doctors, any white collar position that had a service. And so I had to learn to deal with men. And most of the time, they were so much older than I was. I felt like their granddaughter or a child. So I was in this position where I knew less than they did in their eyes. And that's many women struggle with that. I struggled with that in corporate settings also. Like, I was this little girl, but I knew stuff. I knew things, and I knew I did. But what I used to my advantage is my sales. I knew that if I got them talking, they would feel positive about the experience with me. And that is one of those tricks that women can use. I can listen better than a man can. And I would say, just tell me more. And they would come away with, oh, she's a great listener. And then when I had to sell them something, I knew exactly what they wanted because they told me. So I used it to my advantage to put myself in a position where I was a good listener. And I think for women, that's kind of that role. And unfortunately, I hate it. I hate that we have to act like that, but it allowed me to do that. But it also allowed me to learn so much because, and I kind of brought this up, that women don't think of themselves as CEOs. Men do. So they have a lot of different mindsets about things. And I would question them 100%. And that's how I learned to lead, is because I was learning from a man who was a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. And then I would twist it and become myself and use those nuggets to become what I needed to be. But women sit there and say, I'm a business owner, and that's like the cap. They've created a false ceiling. Instead of saying, I'm a CEO and I can get here. I just had this conversation with a mentor of mine yesterday. I was like, what do you call yourself? She's like, oh, a business owner. I'm like, no, you're not thinking like a CEO. And we had this great conversation, and she's like, I never thought of it that way. And so I think women have positioned themselves as a lower role, which has also capped their questioning and their ability to think outside of the box of that next level and really take them to the next spot. Even in the sales world, it was generally men who were leading the sales, and it was because they were driven to do that, and women had other priorities. But I was a top closer. I was a top performer. I could still do it with and be a mom. And it was just, I prioritized differently and just took what I learned from them and put it in my own little, formula and use it that way. So I think women we mask what we are to fit in, but I don't think we need to. I think we just need to take those good ideas and make it work for you. But don't cap yourself with this invisible ceiling that's saying you're in this box. You get to be up here. You get to lead. You get to do what you want.
Kathy, I'm getting goosebumps, really.
Thank you. I'm very passionate about it.
Really, I feel it. I'm so feeling it. So thank you so much. I also have a note, just switching a bit the topic. I also have a note about, I guess there is some motto you have, some saying or a quote. You said, I'm not quite sure if it's correct, but it's like, not every yes is a smart move. Did you say
So
that?
that's a good opportunity. So that was from my mentor, and we were talking about evaluating every opportunity. Some you have to step forward and some you have to step back, but you shouldn't, not every opportunity is a yes, and you shouldn't always say yes, but you need to evaluate everything. Because if your ultimate goal is to get somewhere, lead a company, and that was my goal, sometimes I had some learning to do. And sometimes I was offered jobs and it would take me over here. But if I was going to learn what I needed to, sometimes I had to say yes to get that information to get me where I wanted to. I don't think everything is linear and a path. And kind of back to talking to those young professionals, it's not going to be like this. Sometimes it's back and forth and around and up and down, depending on your life, as well as what you're looking for. And that endpoint might change throughout your life, different phases and seasons that we go through, especially as women. I have a 17-year-old, but what I didn't tell you is I have 2 children under the age of 5. COVID hit and I had more kids. So I thought I was in one season having an older child and I could do certain things. And then I started back over. So I went from wanting to lead a big, huge company and have that back down to the lifestyle business because I'm a mom again of 3 kids, so
What a roller coaster. Unbelievable.
but it's back to that, not every opportunity is a yes. It needs to fit in, and maybe it's not a yes now, but maybe not right now. Just because it doesn't fit into where you're at and what you need.
Thank you so much. Another question, because the time is flying, unfortunately. If I am now, interested in working with you and getting coached by you, by Katie, so what kind of topics could we tackle together, right? So where do you see your strength? Where you say, okay, of course it's depending on the person, with you and with the one you are talking to, but in general.
So I really love to work with anybody in business. I focus on women because that's my passion. I've lived it. But with that, I really start to talk about how to create what you're looking to create. And for me, actually have a science background. I'm a scientist by my trade. So it's all about systems and putting systems in place that allow you to have what you want. So if it's at large company, if it's a lifestyle business, if it's growing and having employees, or if it's, I love sales and I don't ever want to give it up, but I do not want to do these other things. How do you create that? And so I work with businesses, traditional businesses, consultants, coaches, creators in all different ways. But I generally start off with one thing. And because it's all business, I actually have them fill out my CEO scaling scorecard. And what it is a scorecard that I created based on my years of experience, because I knew when I would take over a business, I need to know what phase they were in. That's part of my clarity. And those are, is it chaos, stabilization, or optimization? And chaos is actually a stage and not just that feeling of chaos. So I wanted to know where they were at, because I know how to get you from chaos to stabilization, and stabilization to optimization. There's simple things you need to do, but if I don't know where you're starting, I don't know where to take you. So that's really where I start with everybody, and I will give you the link to that. Anybody can take it. It will give them instant results, as well as a chance to talk to me. All they have to do is book a call, and I'm happy to review it with everybody. And from there, we can decide, is there a way to work together based on what they really need or want? Or do I have a partner that I can send them to that will give them what they really need? And so that's just a different way. I believe in surrounding myself with the right people who can, I'm not an expert in everything, but I do have the right people to get you what you want if I'm not the right person.
I very much appreciate what you share, how you share things, what you say. It's impressive, listening to you. Thank you so much, Katie. And I really like the idea of a scorecard, because you can easily evaluate, right, the state of the business you are trying to coach, right? So it's wonderful. So one last question, or maybe it's like a favor. Maybe you can do me a favor. So I would like to get a quote from you, something what is driving you, what is, meaningful. Maybe it's your morning motivation, or maybe it's a quote from, I don't know, somebody you heard and which gives you wings to fly. Maybe you can share something like this with me.
Oh boy. I know this is going to be a horrible quote, I guess. But in business, this is like the thing that I have two really that I follow. One is garbage in, garbage out. And I live this 100% in everything I do, systems, my business, even in sales. If I'm putting garbage into my sales, I'm going to have garbage out. In my systems, if I'm not putting into my CRM, I live by this, even in my personal life. If I'm putting garbage into my life, that's what I'm going to get out of it. So I've really taken that to believe that. But the other piece really is around putting yourself in a position, to be that CEO and see yourself as that. And I really don't have like a saying, but I really just believe that if you speak what you seek until you see what you said, and that's a hard way to say it, but if you're going to say, I'm going to be a CEO, then you need to start speaking it and acting it. And then you will keep saying it, and then you will become that because you put all that effort into it. And those are my two mottos of business and just life, I guess.
Thank you for sharing, Katie. I love those two models, especially the last one. This is very nice, because when you say it, you hear it, you believe it, and then you hopefully act, right? Like it. Yeah, thank you so much. So unfortunately, this is the end of the episode of today. The Expert Talk episode today with Katie Hahn from beautiful Ohio. Thank you so much, Katie. It was a pleasure talking to you. I very much enjoyed our conversation. I took a lot of notes, and I will also read them again, and they will help me, I'm quite sure. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Hey, no problem. And I will stay in touch and get you all the information to my scorecard as well.
Yes, of course. So it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.